Good morning. Today is Wednesday, August 12th. We'll be looking at the 5th chapter in the Gospel of John. Jesus is in Jerusalem again. He is often in Jerusalem in the Gospel of John. Jesus doesn't do anything of significance, maybe as much to John's liking as when he is in Jerusalem. So in Jerusalem, he heals a man on the Sabbath. Again, the Pharisees see him do that. They get upset with him. But here we have a little more detail about this man who gets healed on the Sabbath. In Jerusalem, they were healing pools near a portico where people would gather, and then when the tide would come in, those pools would fill and the people would go into the water, and they believed that the water had healing powers to it. And so this man has had an illness for 38 years. Jesus sees him and learns of how long he's waited to be healed and how he can't physically get up and go into the waters, and somebody else beats him to the punch every time. And Jesus heals him right then and there. Now, I think the significance in telling us how long this man had been ill, it claims more about the miracle itself, but it also says, Jesus, I need to heal this man now. Who wants to wait another day when you've waited 38 years? There's no more time. No better time like the present. There's no more time for this man. So Jesus heals him, even though it's the Sabbath. Oh, wait a minute. I know you're 38 years, but can you wait till tomorrow? No. Heals him on the Sabbath because Jesus is trying to redefine the Sabbath like he does in the other Gospels. You know, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the use of the Sabbath needs to be identified. So this man's 38-year illness is over. Jesus says, get up and carry your mat, which the Pharisees find him doing and say, you're not allowed to carry your mat on the Sabbath. It's the Sabbath. You're not allowed to do any work, and carrying your mat would be considered work. And he says, no, I have to, because the man that healed me told me to do this. And then, he healed him on the Sabbath. So, it just goes to show you that they're so entrenched in this, this idea that you can't do this. And then he asked, who made you well? And he said, take it up and walk. And now the man who'd been healed didn't know it was Jesus. Jesus disappeared in the crowd. Later Jesus found him in the temple and said, see, you have been made well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse happens to you. And the man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. And then it sets it up for the Jews trying to find a way to get rid of him and try to start persecuting him, is what the words for John's gospel. So he does this heal. John makes it clear that Jesus and God are the same. So this next excursus kind of that John has is about Jesus' authority, and it has to do with his being linked. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father, and that's in that famous passage in verse when we get to chapter 14. We hear that. So there's no way to the Father but by me. That's 3:16, and then of course it's also in 14 as well. So we'll find that out later. But John makes it clear that Jesus and God are the same. Two expressions of the same entity, essentially. And then there's a section on the people coming out of their graves. So do not be astonished, for the hour is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice and will come out. And those who have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of condemnation. Do we take this literally as people rising up out of the ground or out of the earthen tombs that they had been entombed in? Or do we think about it in terms of people being born again? Okay, so does he mean born again literally? Right? So it's the similar thing. It's death and life, and being awakened to the realities. He keeps saying, you say you believe so-and-so, but you don't believe me. If you don't believe me, and I've told you this, and still you don't believe, and things like that. So he keeps saying that. So maybe it's this people coming out of their graves is being awakened to the reality of God in their midst, to the kingdom that Jesus is trying to bring about on the earth. So they're coming out of their graves. And then Jesus, in this next section, kind of sectioned off, verse 30, the last bit, he goes into legalese, for lack of a better term, where he becomes his own defense attorney. So Jesus looks at other witnesses. So Jewish law prohibits a person from being their own witness, right? To testify on their own behalf. You have to find other people to make the testimony on your behalf. That's the law. And so Jesus starts out in this testimony saying that I testify about myself, but my testimony is not true. Is there another who testifies on my behalf? And I know that there is another who testifies on my behalf, and I know this testimony is true. And he's talking about John the Baptist. He said John to testify to the truth. And not that I accept such human testimony, but I say these things that you might be saved. And he becomes his own defense attorney. He's defending his position in this this part here. And like I would say, it was like an excursus of what John is trying to say. And then he switches sides of the courtroom, and he becomes the prosecution. Not of himself, but of the others who were against him. And he says, how can you believe when you accept glory from one another and do not see the glory that comes from God alone? And he says, do not think that I will accuse you before the Father. Your accuser's Moses. On Moses you've set your hope, because these are the purveyors of the law. They're keeping the law and the law of Moses. And so he says, if you believed in Moses, you would have believed in me, because Moses wrote about me. But you do not believe what he wrote. So how will you ever believe what I say? So he's moving from different sides of the courtroom. He's defending himself, and then he's prosecuting those who would attack him. So I just said, you believed in Moses, then you will believe in me. But you really don't believe in Moses, because if you did, you'd believe in me. And I'm here. I'm trying to save you. I'm not doing this to condemn you. God sent his son not to condemn the world, but so the world might be saved. This is what Jesus is trying to do. And he's got this rhetoric going back and forth with those who would be against him. And he's speaking directly to them in this chapter 5. Have a great day.